Okay, Nate Dev, here's the video I promised. Here's probably my best implementation of cards that I've ever done. And I'm just going to go over abstractly what I do. But it seems like you've kind of got some of it down already. So, what I do with highlighting is I'll sort of like base it on what you do. So, the main thing is that I make the thing screen independent or screen width independent. And part of the way I do that is by having it setting it up such that it has the card manager that manages where the cards in your hand are has an understanding of how much space it needs on the left hand side and how much space it needs on the right hand side. Then obviously it has a list of all of its cards that it wants to be placed in order, and it has a tricky thing, which is a a maximum horizontal distance between cards. That's why whenever I stretch it out like this, the cards will spread out, but they won't spread out too thin. And then if I draw 10 cards, I draw a full hand of cards, you'll see the cards start to will be more scrunched up. See, so it adjusts based on how many cards you have in your hand, how close the cards are. You basically do a formula. You've probably done something similar to this, but the basic formula, let's see if I can find it here. Okay, you take the horizontal distance you want to work with, which is your screen width minus the two screen edge segments that you set as sort of a continuous size. Then you get that gives you your horizontal space, and then you subdivide that horizontal space into based on the number of cards you have in your hand, and that tells you how much distance you want between each card, right? Then there's like some weirdness that happens based on if you have an odd numbered size hand or an even numbered size hand. But I think that kind of gets worked out if you use a float because you do some division. I don't know. You divide the number. I think you divide the number of cards in your hand by half. That's right. I think that's done like here to get your like starting position, and then you sort of like lay the cards out. You start at like this position on the right hand side, and then just lay the cards out using that distance between cards to space them out. And you use a min function here with these like max distance between hand cards. You basically set this maximum distance so that the cards never get too far apart. Because if the cards get too far apart, they look weird. So let's see if I can demonstrate that here. Yeah, so let's do max distance between cards to like 99999. And then let's see what it looks like. Yeah, you see, if you get, obviously, it makes the cards kind of weird. The other thing is that, and this is something I already talked about, whenever you highlight the card, I like it to snap. I think that's smoother and more immediate, especially if it snaps and loses its rotation and becomes flat, like face up, because it makes it even faster for you to read the card. I think like it saves you just that little bit of time. I like smooth interpolation. That's why I set the whole thing up right to have this lerp effect. Even though this, I mean, you can barely notice it on this version of my card system, but even then, I still set it up that way because I just think it looks really good. But this is one of those cases where, kind of like if you were highlighting a character, I wouldn't have a UI. If you were doing a strategy game and you wanted a UI element where you want to see what the character can do, I wouldn't have that slide onto the screen. I'd have that immediately pop up so that like people can immediately like flip back and forth between two things on the screen. Like I can highlight this character and maybe this character. Let's say these have two just different descriptions, like two different stat pools, two different HP values. I can you want to switch back and forth between them quickly without there being delay. I mean, you've probably noticed this already. This is probably obvious to you. The other thing is that when you're playing cards, I'll do stuff like this, which is it depends on what system you want to do. Like one system is you want to maybe like click the card and the card becomes like selected, and you have two modes. You have like the select a card mode and then the what's the card selected mode, right? You're going to have that anyways, but sometimes you want to just like click the card and then click the thing you want to target with the card, right? But a smoother way to reduce inputs is to have it to where you click the card and drag it and then release the click to use the card, like there. So when you click it, I can drag it around, and then there's this plane at the bottom. It's actually a y-axis value where if the card goes above a certain y-axis value, it switches from being click dragged, which can be then immediately released and put back into your hand, right? Once you drag it up to a certain point, this arrow appears, and it allows you to select targets. And this card was going to front flip. I don't think it does. Yeah, it doesn't work. I didn't fully implement all this stuff because I'm lazy and didn't finish this project because I don't finish projects. Oh, and that breaks whenever I go up to that corner. That's interesting. Um, but and now it's unbroken again. Oh, I was out of energy. That's right. Cards use energy. Right, right. I have energy down here. Okay, so yeah, that's sort of that. But look how smooth that looks. Oh, it's very nice. I'm so proud of this. I look back at this. I should just work on this project. Dang, why did I give up on this game? This game looks tight. So yeah. This is how you make this arrow basically by having like I just have a curve object that essentially like peaks at that top point and then curves back down, and then the chevrons get bigger as they move along the curve, and also always are sort of always pointing at the next chevron. It's like basic snake stuff. I think they're all offset so that they're pointing. Anyways, that looks really nice. What else? Um, I guess that's it. And I guess, it's sort of, you're probably already on the right track, so this video probably won't help you all that much, to be honest. But, oh yeah, I guess one more subtle thing is that you'll notice that when I highlight this card, that the two cards adjacent to it move left and right to the side. And I can show that a little better whenever I add more cards to your opening hand. So if you look here, specifically the two cards to the left and right of your card that you're highlighting, I like to move them move them to the side. And some of that is because it prevents this weird overlap. You notice that sometimes when you select two cards at once, it sort of selects one then the other. Um, I have some ideas on how to fix that little like minor graphical glitch, but it's sort of hacky, so I didn't want to do it. But that movement, that horizontal movement, I think adds like the nice little, just a little kiss of game feel, which feels really good to me. Um, but I think you're going in the right direction. I think your cards look really good. That part's hard. Implementing the actual mechanics is usually harder. Like this movement thing took me 2 weeks or something to do. It took me forever to set that up. It doesn't even work right. You see that arrow doesn't even point in the right direction because I don't understand pathfinding because I'm an idiot. But anyways, that's it. That's the cards. Those are my tips. Um, I didn't like implement a really nice discarding animation, but I did do that here. So like I guess that's one more thing I'll show you. Let me open up another project. Okay, so you probably remember this game. This is a Space Cardette. This is that game I was working on. One thing I did in this game, and it kind of only worked. It might not work for every game, but I still would implement something similar to this. But because this game you didn't have to target anything with the cards, it was just all about playing them. Whenever I would throw them up, they would have this really nice flick effect, which is essentially done by it's done in a really interesting way. So what you do to make this flick effect is is that each frame this card is recording the previous like 20 or so positions that it was in. So it knows, it knows that like one frame ago it was here, and one frame ago it was here, and one frame ago it was here, right? It records its set of previous positions, and it averages them all out. It averages the difference between them out, and creates a single vector with that. And then it uses that vector to determine how the card should flick. So if I throw the card, it just means that if I throw a card up and to the right, that it goes up and it rotates to the right, right? And if I throw it up harder, it does it harder, and if I throw it to the right harder it goes faster. See, like that. And you can do little card tricks with it, and it's like really satisfying to do. The other thing you'll notice is the card actually. Man, this game's so glitchy. This is also a good game that I should have finished. What's wrong with me? I have a fucking problem. There's something wrong with me. Uh, you also notice that the cards get smaller and darker, which is sort of meant to emulate them like falling back into the background, which I felt really good about this. So if I was doing a different game, if I was doing the previous game where most of the cards have to like target something, obviously you wouldn't have this flick effect exactly like it, but you could still have a. I think I still implemented a function that just triggers a flick. So like yeah, whenever I press four or one, two, or three or four, it plays the cards. Right? Yeah, that's right. And they get a random flick effect. Basically get the flick to happen randomly, and that's what I would do if one of the cards in this game had to have targets. Right? Do the random flick. And then you could still have the flick throw on cards. So like if on cards that don't need a target. So if you think about in Slay the Spire, for example, Slay the Spire, defensive cards and non-target cards, you just like pull them up onto the screen and you would like release them and they would play, right? Well, that you could do flicking with those and it would be kind of fun, right? But and it would almost encourage. I mean, this is so fun. Honestly, this was like what made this game feel good to begin with was this flicking effect. It probably was the best part of the game. More than the actual gameplay itself was just throwing these cards felt so good. Even when they were like do like weird stuff like that. Huh. It might even actually add some like natural lift. I'm not sure. Anyways, that's so cool when it goes down like that. Yeah. It's almost kind of buggy, but it still works. Yeah. That's another thing that I did with cards that I think is good. I don't know. I'm just going to sort of going over random stuff that I did with cards. I hope that was helpful to you. I'm going to try to chop this up so it's not 20 minutes long. And hopefully this helps you at all. Hopefully I didn't just waste your time with a 10-minute video about just showing off how cool some of my card effects are. Or how cool I think they are, even though they're actually probably just like standard. Oh man, I love this game. Alright, enough.